Let's talk pull-ups, shall we? If you're working towards your first one and you've been stuck on banded pull-ups for fucking ages and you're almost ready to quit, then don't. I'm going to talk you through everything you need to make that first pull-up happen. So stick around and we'll sort you out. I'm going to start by saying that pull-ups are just really fucking hard. So expect for this shit to go on for some time. But the last thing you want to be doing is working hard in all the wrong places. So let's clear up what it is you actually need to make your first pull-up happen. First, let's just break down what a pull-up actually is. You're not just hanging from a bar of using your arms to get up. Your back muscles are going to do most of the work, but also making sure you've got a strong core, because the more tension you have in the body, the easier it is for you to drive yourself up to the bar. Any kind of weight is easier to move when there is tension. So if we can learn how to lock everything in and keep everything tight whilst also driving ourselves up to the bar, you're going to have a much easier time. And I also just want to point out that pull-ups are really fucking hard. Coming from someone who was a gymnast for nearly 20 years, I've always found pull-ups easy. But I have coached a lot of women in making their first pull-up happen who weren't ex-gymnasts. And so I know exactly what it takes to help you get there. I also know that it's a tough journey. So don't be too hard on yourself if you've been stuck on banded pull-ups forever and still nothing is budging. You need a proper plan to make pull-ups happen. You need to be training them enough. And you also need a bit of structure. The same with anything else that you're trying to achieve. You need to continuously progress movement. So the tools I'm going to give you today aren't necessarily things you will keep doing forever. The same as anything else. You will start with the basics, you will build yourself up. And even when you get to your first pull-up, you then want to maintain the pull-up. You also want to maybe build on multiple reps. And so the journey is continuous. But anyway, I could chat for days. So I'm going to get stuck in with tool number 1. So let's start with the beginning of the pull-up, your bare hand. You really need to get very good at hanging from the bar. Because if you want to aim for not just one pull-up but multiple, then yeah, you're going to be hanging from above for a decent amount of time. So it's not just your grip that we're going to be working here, but also your core engagement as you move through the pull-up. So the position you want to be in where you're practicing your hands, the fully folded away from your ears, and then scooping with toes in front of you so you can see that my core is fully engaged. That is something that you're going to build on over time. I could tell you to work towards a 60-second hand, which is a long time, by the way. But just work with where you're at now. If all you can do right now is 5 seconds, you make note of that and you build on it and just keep getting better. But just a reminder, you're going to pull your shoulders away from your ears. So that's the scapular control that we talk about. And then you're going to scoop so that you've got that lovely little hollow hold position, or in dish, which we used to call in our gymnast days. So we're sacking the wrist like so. So you can practice this hollow hold on the floor. You can shove this at the start of your sessions. And the same with the hands, you're just going to build on improving how long you can hold it for. So it's exactly the same as the hand. You're going to lie on the floor with your legs and arms out. The arms are going to lift so your shoulders are off the floor. And then you're going to scoop toes in front of you. And you can see here that my lips are stacked. And, this is easy. Again, start with whatever you can do and build on that. There are loads of core variations and loaded core variations that I could show you, but I'm going to save that for another video. So just subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff. Next up, we've got some isometric holds. Now, you can't yet do a pull-up. So we're going to break down every part of it and build strength in each area of the pull-up so that you can bring it all together. Now, I'm making this very long for myself, but ideally you want to be able to highlight to the top of the pull-up. I'm going to try and hold it up here with a nice solid hold position. That might be a really challenging position, and I'm not going to lie, it's supposed to be. But if you can hold yourself there even for a couple of seconds, that's a really good start. And if you can't quite do it from a full hand yet, that's okay too. You're going to use some assistance whether it's your feet, a band, or an assisted machine, whatever you need to do in order to start building on that skill. Next up, we've got to get used to initiating the pull. It's not just as simple as pulling with your arms. We're actually going to be using the shoulder blades to initiate that activation with the lats in order to then use our back muscles to get ourselves up to the bar. I'm going to show you what that looks like here. So you can see how my shoulder blades are moving, but a really nice way to think about it is we're just trying to create space in between our shoulders and ears. We don't want to be hanging like this. And if you look from the side, you can quite literally see how activating the shoulders engages the lats and allows us to create that space to then drive into the pull. But again, this is another thing that you want to get really good at. So repetition is the key here. You'll be doing that in your pull downs, all your pull-up variations, your rows, not just to build the strength there, but also for you to understand exactly what you need to make your first pull-up happen. Right, now an absolute must when working towards your full pull-up is doing pull-up eccentrics, which is basically the part where we're lowering ourselves down. So the first set, as I've just shown, is holding yourself at the top. You kind of need to be able to do that for at least a second before you go into the pull-up eccentrics. If you're jumping up to the top and just falling down, then we need to find a regression that you're able to execute properly. That's an easy solution. You can use your feet, you can get yourself on an assisted machine or use bands in order to support yourself to start recreating that pull-up movement. The advice that I can't stress enough is to try and find a way to climb to the top rather than jump. A pull-up eccentric is hard enough as it is without you swinging all over the place. My interpretation of getting to the top of a pull-up eccentric. Now, a couple of things just to note on that. I've got an injured elbow right now, so I can't fully straighten out my left arm. If you notice that in the video, please know it's really important to fully extend. So don't just lower yourself down to here and then drop on the last bit. You might find that you don't quite have enough breath. You might find that you don't quite have the strength to lower all the way down, and that's okay. But just do your best to control all the way to a full hang. The rep is not done until you've hit that full hang. You'll climb your way back to the top and then repeat. Now you can really build on this. You could start with a 2 to 3 second eccentric, all the way up to a 6 or even 10-second eccentric if you really want to torture yourself. But the most important thing is spending time under tension in the places where we need strength for your pull-up. So again, the key things we're looking out for is that you hold yourself at the top, you then lower all the way down to a full hang. And whilst you're doing that, make sure that you've still got that space between your ears and shoulders. Don't let yourself drop into that passive hang. We want to stay active throughout so that we're really working the lats. And again, we're just working everything we need in all the right places. Alright, so we're focused on building strength in all different parts of the pull-up. One of the key mistakes people make is not practicing the actual pull-up itself. Now, bandy pull-ups can be a really useful tool for actually practicing the skill itself. But the downside to banded pull-ups is even with a lighter band, they're always going to help you at the start of a pull-up, which is also the hardest part. So one of my favorite things to introduce is something like a feet-assisted pull-up. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So we're still starting in a full hand, and we're using as little or as much assistance as we need in order to actually pull up. back down, and again. Now, I like these because they feel a bit more like a pull-up. You can give yourself as much or as little assistance as you need. But the idea is that we're trying to make it as hard as possible from the hang itself. The hardest bit of a pull-up is that initial pull. And then we need to continue that strength, but it doesn't matter if we can't do the first bit, right? So that's a really great variation I'd love to use to practice the actual skill of the pull-up, but also the strength required to actually pull your body weight up. All right, another tool I love to use when helping my clients achieve their first pull-up is an inverted row. Now you might also have a TRX row or a ring row available to you, and they're also great options for building a stronger back and getting really good with that pull-in strength. Now, the inverted row is a nice bridge between horizontal and vertical pull-up. What I love about the inverted row is you can play around with it to suit where you're at right now. So please make sure you are hanging against the rack and not the other way so that you literally pull this way. It happens, it hurts. I've told you about it. So with the inverted row, the further under we are, the harder it's going to be. I'm just going to show you what that looks like from this kind of height. We start with nice long arms and we're driving the sternum up to the bar. You want to make sure you hold at the top and then control all the way down to full extension before you go up again. So really don't rush these reps. We want to get strong in these positions, and then rushing, we're spending less time there. We're not quite getting the most out of each set. So sternum to the bar, hold, and then lower it again all the way out to a full extension, keeping the core engaged. And then, make sure the last couple of reps are really challenging. What you don't want to be doing when the reps do get tough is driving your hips up. It's a common mistake that we all make. When it gets hard, you want to just keep grinding away. We don't want to go like this, all right? So just keep an eye out for that. Now, I'm obviously going to stick some assisted pull-ups in here. I'm going to use bands. I don't have an assisted machine. I don't necessarily think that one is better than the other. If you have the option to rotate through both, I would suggest that. The banded pull-ups feel a little bit more like a pull-up, but they also help you a lot at the start of the pull-up, which is also where we need to get stronger at. The assisted machine makes it a little bit more stable for us. It also allows us to track progress a bit easier with the weight increments, using less as assistance as you go on. But again, there's no right or wrong there. The most important part is that you're not just using an assisted machine and you're not just doing banded pull-ups. All the other tools I've given you are all very important alongside doing the actual pull-up itself. Just doing banded pull-ups won't get you there. It's that simple. Now I'm going to show you a setup that I like to use. Obviously, you can do your traditional wrap it over the bar type the situation, but if you're able to do this, it's my favorite. Now I'm going to use a couple of bands here and just wipe that over the top. Like so much easier to get in and out of. And one of the most common mistakes I see with banded pull-ups is not being intentional with them. Bopping up and down, taking advantage of the band just isn't going to help you get there. That is not what a pull-up feels like. A pull-up is typically a hard, grinding rep that you need a lot of strength for. So expecting to just be able to do a pull-up by bouncing out of a band multiple times just isn't going to work. So we're going to find a setup that allows you to actually pull all the way and then lower yourself all the way down to a full hang, and then go again. Now again, we're looking for intentional reps here. So we're not rushing, we're not just falling down. So when you're doing these, you want to try and replicate what a pull-up feels like, making sure you're starting from a full hand. So all the way from here, you're practicing that scapula retraction. You're driving the elbows down. You're keeping your core engaged. When we get to the top, don't rush it. Get to the top and hold it for a second. You can build on that if you want. You're then going to lower down with control. By dropping down a foot, you're missing out on such strong core pull-up build and strength. So don't do. And again, if that means using more assistance in order to execute movement properly, then do that. Spend more time. Be a little bit more patient. Do it properly. Progressing too soon is actually one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Spend time getting really good at before you then evolve. Now, real quick, before we move on, this video has everything you need to make your first pull-up happen. Oh, I've got a halo. Lovely. But if you would prefer that I quite literally tell you exactly what you need to be doing, for how many reps, how many sets, how hard you need to be working, as well as how to progress that over time, I have a plan for that. I've got a 12-week pull-up plan that you can repeat over and over and over again until you make your first rep happen. It's also really useful for those who maybe can do a pull-up, but it's messy as fuck. So you can use this plan to clean up your reps in order for you to then start hitting multiple. And I have a plan for that. It's £27. It's got videos. It's got everything you need. The link is down there, hopefully. If you've got questions, drop it in the comments below. Please ask away. I love hearing from you guys. I want to know if this shit helps, so please do let me know down there. Anyway, moving on to the last few bits. Alright, this variation I love for developing on the actual pull-up skill and strength itself. So the whole movement, and this is what I believe some people call Aussie pull-up. Now what you're doing is finding a position where you're able to hang fully with the feet elevated but the hips down. And then you're going to drive up to the bar, lower down, all the way to a full hand, then again practicing that scapular control, driving down, and then lowering. Now the key to making this pull-up variation happen is keeping your ass down. It's really easy to start hip thrusting your body up towards the bar. Your body is basically trying to make it as easy as possible for you to make the movement happen, and you need to fight that a bit. So it's okay to drive your legs down into the bench, but don't allow those hips to rise. You want to use your back muscles. You want to get really good at grinding out a pull-up. Because when you eventually make the pull-up happen, that's what it's going to feel like. It's not going to be easy, and you're going to have to fight hard to make that happen. So I love this. I am just going to say that movement quality is important when it comes to pull-ups. So if you're up there and your core isn't engaged, your legs are all over the place, and you drop down almost immediately, then it's better to find a variation that you can actually do well, build on that, spend a bit longer on that before you then progress to the next steps. Give yourself time to build on these things and don't rush it. Now, you're obviously not going to use all of those things at once. Pick 2 or 3 and make sure you're training towards your pull-up at least 2 to 3 times a week. My advice would be to find your starting point. That might be that you need to start with hollow holds and hacks, as well as some form of assisted pull-up, twice a week, minimum. Build on that. Don't just collect the progressions. Spend time at each one, mastering each one, building strength in each portion. One of the most common mistakes I see women make when they're trying to achieve that first pull-up is rushing the progress. It's not going to happen every week. In fact, you might spend months working on the same thing. This is normal. And once again, I will point out that if this is still a little overwhelming and you don't really know how to piece it together, you don't know how to incorporate it into your current strength training program, you can either buy my pull-up program and incorporate that into your training. I'll tell you how. Or I can take care of all of it for you. The Strongest Fuck Club is my coaching program that is between plan and full one-on-one coaching. It's a middle ground. It's programming with about as much support as you could possibly get without the cost of one-to-one training. And it's a group of women all trying to achieve cool shit. You'll be able to celebrate your wins, share your struggles, but also you've got direct access to me. So when you're stuck on how to progress a movement, if you're unsure whether you're doing it right, I can give you that feedback so you can keep making progress every week. Not only will you see more results than you may have done in years, but you might even enjoy it. And that's what we want at the end of the day. So, a couple of options for you there, no pressure. It's in the link below. If you've got questions, give me a shout. But I would obviously, being very biased, would love to see you there. Alright, so I'm going to end this video by telling you what not to do with all of this stuff. One thing you're not going to do is rush this stuff. Get really good at hollow holds. Get really good at hanging. And spend time there. You have to, there's no rush with this. And if anything, rushing these steps will make the whole press a hell of a lot slower. By building the foundations properly, by executing movements well, by not rushing reps, by challenging yourself in the right places, training hard enough as well. But when it comes to training hard enough, you also need to be able to execute the movements properly to train harder. So let's use a pull-up eccentric as an example. If you can't hang, and if you can't even hold yourself at the top for a second, you're just going to drop down in the eccentric, right? So get really good at holding at this top for a few weeks or months, or however long it takes. Then you can build on the eccentric. It might be that you do eccentrics with some assistance, using a band, an assisted machine. Maybe you do the feet-assisted pull-ups, but you just focus on the eccentric and you use your feet as support. There are so many ways to go about this. Again, if you've got questions, drop them in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer. I love helping women achieve their first pull-up. But just know that you will be able to make it happen. You might just need a bit of direction, a bit of support, a few tweaks in the right places, but also working on the right stuff too. So I really hope all of this stuff helped. You will get there. Be patient, stick with it, do not give up, because then it definitely won't happen. And once again, if you like this video, subscribe, let me know. I would love to hear from you. Until then, good luck with your pull-up journey.